What if the thing you are desperately chasing is moving away from you because you are chasing it? What if the person you keep trying to impress doesn't need another message? What if the opportunity you are trying to force doesn't need more pressure? What if the reason you feel exhausted isn't because life is too difficult, but because you are constantly trying to control things that were never yours to control? Think about the last time you desperately wanted something. Maybe it was someone's attention. Maybe someone's love. Maybe an apology. Maybe success. Maybe money. Maybe recognition. Maybe simply the feeling that your life was finally moving in the right direction. You wanted it badly, so you chased it. You thought about it in the morning. You thought about it during the day. And you thought about it again before sleeping. You checked your phone. You replayed conversations. You imagined different outcomes. You wondered what you could do differently. You tried harder. You waited. You worried. And somehow, the more you chased it, the more powerless you felt. Now imagine another possibility. Imagine being able to want something deeply without becoming desperate for it. Imagine loving someone without being terrified that they might leave. Imagine working towards success without allowing one failure to destroy your confidence. Imagine being rejected and still knowing your worth. Imagine waiting without anxiety. Imagine losing without losing yourself. That is not weakness. That is stoic detachment. And today, you're going to learn how to develop it. But there is something you need to understand before we begin. Detachment does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean pretending you don't care. It does not mean giving up on your goals. It does not mean sitting back and waiting for life to magically give you everything. Quite the opposite. Detachment means becoming so grounded within yourself that you can pursue what you want without becoming a slave to whether you get it. And once you understand this, your relationships change. Your mindset changes. Your decisions change. Your confidence changes. And most importantly, your relationship with yourself changes. So stay with me until the end, because by the time we finish, you will understand why chasing creates suffering, why letting go creates power, and how to stop forcing life while still taking powerful action. This is the Stoic Art of Detachment, and it begins with one uncomfortable truth. You are not tired of life. You are tired of chasing. There is a special kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. It comes from constantly trying to make something happen, trying to make someone love you, trying to make someone understand you, trying to make people respect you, trying to make your career move faster, trying to make success arrive, trying to make the past change, trying to make the future certain, trying to make reality match the picture inside your head. You may look completely normal from the outside. You go to work. You talk to people. You complete your responsibilities. You smile. You continue your daily routine. But internally, your mind is running. What if they leave? What if I fail? What if they don't choose me? What if someone else gets there first? What if I am wasting my time? What if things never change? This constant mental chasing is exhausting. And the most dangerous part is that it can feel productive. You think about the problem so much that you believe you are doing something about it. But thinking is not always action. Sometimes thinking is simply another form of resistance. You are trying to mentally force an outcome that reality has not given you yet. The Stoics recognized this. They understood that human beings often suffer because they demand certainty from an uncertain world. They want guarantees. They want promises. They want control. But life does not offer complete control. Life offers choices. It offers opportunities. It offers uncertainty. And it offers one precious thing: the ability to choose your response. That is where your power begins. The first thing you must stop chasing. Before you stop chasing people, before you stop chasing success, before you stop chasing approval, you need to stop chasing certainty. This is one of the biggest hidden addictions of the human mind. We want to know what will happen. We want to know whether someone will stay. We want to know whether our plan will work. We want to know whether our decision is correct. We want to know whether the future will be safe. So we keep thinking. We analyze. We research. We ask other people. We look for signs. We replay the past. We predict the future. But eventually, there comes a point where thinking stops being useful. It becomes obsession. You are not solving the problem anymore. You are simply circling it. And the more you circle it, the more anxious you become. This is why Stoic philosophy begins with control. Ask yourself, is this actually within my control? If it is, act. If it isn't, release. That sounds simple, but applying it requires discipline. Imagine you send someone a message. You can control what you wrote. You cannot control when they respond. You can control whether you communicate honestly. You cannot control whether they understand you. You can control whether you treat someone with respect. You cannot control whether they return that respect. You can control your effort. You cannot completely control the result. This distinction can save you years of unnecessary suffering, because most people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to control the second category. They worry about people's opinions. They worry about future events. They worry about outcomes. They worry about what someone might do. They worry about what someone might think. And while they're doing all of this, they neglect the one thing they actually possess: their own response. A mistake becomes proof that you are not capable. Again, something outside of you controls your internal state. This is exactly what detachment is designed to correct. You can care without surrendering control. You can want without becoming desperate. You can pursue without becoming obsessed. The goal is not to care less. The goal is to become less dependent. That is a very different thing. Wanting without needing. There is a sentence that can completely change your mindset. I want this, but I do not need this to be whole. Read that again. I want this. There is desire, but I do not need this to be whole. There is freedom. You can want a relationship, but you don't need one to have value. You can want success, but you don't need immediate success to respect yourself. You can want money, but money does not determine your character. You can want recognition, but lack of recognition does not erase your work. You can want someone to stay, but their decision to leave does not erase your ability to continue. This mindset changes how you behave. When you believe you need something, you become afraid. When you understand that you can survive without it, you become calm. And calm people make better decisions. Desperate people negotiate with fear. Calm people negotiate with reality. Stop chasing people who are not chasing you. Let's talk about relationships, because this is where attachment becomes especially painful. You reach out. You wait. You reach out again. You wonder why their energy changed. You analyze their messages. You try to become more interesting. You try to become more available. You try to become whatever you think will make them stay. But stop for a moment. Ask yourself, why am I trying so hard to convince someone to choose me? You should make an effort. Of course, relationships require effort, but healthy effort moves in both directions. If you're always initiating, always explaining, always repairing, always waiting, always forgiving, always understanding, while the other person simply receives, you're not building a relationship. You are carrying one, and carrying something alone eventually becomes exhausting. Stoic detachment says, make your effort, then observe. Do not chase endlessly. Let people reveal their level of interest. Let people reveal their priorities. Let people reveal their character. You do not need to force an answer. Their behavior is already an answer. Sometimes the answer is painful, but knowing the truth is healthier than living inside a fantasy. The most dangerous thing you can chase. There is something even more dangerous than chasing people. Chasing an identity. You want to become successful. You want to become admired. You want to become powerful. You want people to look at you and think, they made it. So you begin building your life around an image. You work for applause. You buy things to impress. You post achievements to receive validation. You compare yourself constantly. And eventually, you are no longer building a life. You are building a performance. This is dangerous, because performance never feels finished. There is always someone richer, someone more attractive, someone more successful, someone more popular, someone younger, someone faster, someone further ahead. If your goal is to be admired, there will always be another person to compare yourself with. But if your goal is to become better than yesterday, you have a much more peaceful competition. Your opponent becomes your previous self. That is a competition you can actually control. Let people think whatever they want. One of the greatest freedoms you can develop is the ability to tolerate being misunderstood. Not everyone will understand your decisions. Not everyone will agree with your boundaries. Not everyone will appreciate your growth. Some people will think you've changed. They're right. You have. Growth requires change. Some people may dislike the new version of you because the old version was easier for them to control. Let them think. You do not need to explain every transformation. You do not need to defend every decision. You do not need to convince everyone that your intentions are good. If your actions are aligned with your principles, let time reveal the truth. This is Stoic confidence. Not everyone must understand me, but I understand myself, and I know why I'm doing this. That is enough. The pause that changes everything. The next time you feel the urge to chase, pause. Don't immediately send the message. Don't immediately respond. Don't immediately make the decision. Don't immediately react. Give yourself space. Take a breath. Ask, what am I feeling? Then, what am I afraid of? Then, what am I trying to control? And finally, what action would protect my peace and my dignity? These questions interrupt the emotional cycle. You may discover that you weren't actually angry. You were afraid. You weren't actually desperate for the person. You were afraid of being alone. You weren't obsessed with the opportunity. You were afraid of failure. You weren't angry about criticism. You were afraid that the criticism might be true. Once you understand the fear underneath the behavior, you can finally change the behavior. The moment you stop forcing. Imagine walking toward a door. You push. It doesn't open. You push harder. Still nothing. You become frustrated. You push again. But what if the door isn't meant to be pushed? What if it needs to be pulled? Or what if there is another entrance? This is how many people live. They keep pushing the same door because they have decided that this particular door must open. They don't stop to ask, is there another way? Detachment gives you the ability to step back, to look, to reconsider, to adapt. You can still want the destination, but you don't need one specific route. This is one of the most powerful forms of Stoic flexibility. Hold your principles tightly. Hold your plans lightly. Your values can remain firm. Your strategy can change. Your destination can remain meaningful. Your route can change. That is how you move forward without becoming trapped by expectations. When things don't happen on your timeline, you may be doing everything right and still not see immediate results. You work. You learn. You improve. You stay consistent. But nothing seems to happen. This is where many people quit. Not because they are incapable, because they cannot tolerate delayed results. They think, if this were meant for me, it would already have happened. But that's not always true. Some things require preparation. Some things require maturity. Some things require timing. Some things require you to become the person capable of handling them. A tree doesn't grow because you stare at it. Growth happens quietly, underground, before you see anything above the surface. Roots are developing. Your life can be the same. You may not see the results yet, but your discipline is creating roots. Your knowledge is creating roots. Your patience is creating roots. Your character is creating roots. Do not destroy the process simply because the results are invisible. The real meaning of let it come to you. People often misunderstand the phrase, let it come to you. They think it means do nothing. No, it means stop forcing what you cannot force. Prepare yourself. Do the work. Improve your skills. Become emotionally stable. Become disciplined. Build your life. Then allow opportunities to meet you where you are prepared. If you want a healthy relationship, become capable of participating in one. If you want success, develop the skills that success requires. If you want respect, develop character. If you want peace, stop feeding chaos. If you want freedom, stop making your happiness dependent on external events. You are not waiting for life. You are preparing for life. There is a difference. You are not sitting still. You are becoming ready. And when the right opportunity arrives, you will recognize it, because you have become someone capable of receiving it. Do not confuse patience with passivity. Patience does not mean inactivity. A patient person still acts. They simply do not panic. They do not need immediate results to continue. They do not abandon the process because progress is slow. They understand that consistency compounds. One day of discipline may seem meaningless. 1 month changes something. 1 year can change a life. The problem is that people often want the emotional reward before they have completed the process. They want confidence before practice. They want success before skill. They want trust before consistency. They want results before discipline. But life doesn't work that way. Become the person who can wait. Become the person who can continue. Become the person who can act without needing constant reassurance. That person becomes difficult to shake. Your peace is not for sale. Imagine someone offers you everything you want, but the price is your peace. Would you pay it? A relationship that requires constant anxiety. A career that destroys your health. Success that destroys your character. Money that destroys your relationships. Attention that destroys your privacy. Approval that requires you to become someone you don't respect. Is it really success? The Stoic asks a deeper question. What is the cost? Not only financially, emotionally, mentally, morally, spiritually. If obtaining something requires you to become someone you don't respect, step back. You can desire something and still refuse to pay an unacceptable price. That is detachment. You are willing to walk away. And the person who is willing to walk away cannot easily be manipulated. The freedom of being able to walk away. There is enormous psychological power in knowing, I will be okay without this. That sentence changes your posture. You stop begging. You stop over-explaining. You stop tolerating everything. You stop making decisions from fear. You become capable of saying no. You become capable of leaving. You become capable of starting again. You become capable of accepting loss. Not because loss doesn't hurt, but because you know loss is not the end of you. This is real resilience. You don't need life to guarantee that nothing will hurt. You need confidence that you can survive what hurts. That is a much stronger form of security. Accept what has already happened. There are things you cannot undo. A relationship ended. A mistake happened. An opportunity disappeared. Someone betrayed you. A decision was made. A chapter closed. You can spend years arguing with the past, or you can learn from it. Acceptance does not mean approval. You can say, I did not deserve that, and still accept that it happened. You can say, I wish it had been different, and still stop fighting reality. You can say, I made a mistake, and still forgive yourself. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is seeing clearly. Once you accept reality, you can finally decide what to do next. Before acceptance, you are arguing with the past. After acceptance, you are building the future. A more FATI. Turning pain into strength. What if you stopped asking, why did this happen to me? And started asking, what can this create in me? A rejection can create wisdom. A failure can create discipline. A loss can create appreciation. A difficult relationship can teach boundaries. A period of loneliness can teach self-reliance. A setback can force you to discover abilities you didn't know you had. This is the deeper meaning behind Amor Fati. You don't have to enjoy pain. You learn to use it. You stop wasting suffering. You turn experience into character. You turn disappointment into clarity. You turn uncertainty into patience. You turn rejection into independence. And you continue. That is how the Stoic transforms what cannot be changed. The person who stops chasing becomes different. Something happens when you stop chasing. You become quieter, not weaker. Quieter. You no longer need to announce everything. You no longer need constant attention. You no longer need immediate answers. You no longer need everyone to understand. You become comfortable with uncertainty. You become comfortable with silence. You become comfortable with your own company. You become comfortable saying, I don't know. I'll wait. I'll see. That's not within my control. I've done my part. Those sentences may sound simple, but they represent enormous emotional maturity. Because the immature mind wants control. The mature mind wants clarity. The mature mind understands that sometimes clarity means accepting uncertainty. Stop chasing what is not reciprocal. There is a point where effort stops being effort and starts becoming pursuit. You reach out. You initiate. You explain. You forgive. You wait. You try again and again. But the other side remains distant. At some point, you have to stop asking, what else can I do to make this work? And start asking, Why am I carrying something that requires two people? Stoic detachment teaches you to recognize reciprocity. You can offer respect, but you cannot force respect in return. You can offer love, but you cannot force love in return. You can offer your time, but you cannot force someone to value it. You can open a door, but you cannot make someone walk through it. This is where many people lose themselves. They believe that if they simply try harder, they can change another person's decision. But effort cannot manufacture willingness. You can knock on a door. You cannot force someone to open it from the inside. And once you understand this, you stop taking rejection as a challenge to chase harder. You begin seeing it as information. Someone's lack of effort tells you something. Someone's silence tells you something. Someone's inconsistency tells you something. You don't need to become angry. You don't need revenge. You don't need dramatic explanations. You simply observe, and then you adjust your investment accordingly. This is detachment, not punishment, not manipulation, not pretending you don't care. Just reality. If someone gives you one step, you don't need to run 10 steps toward them. Match reality. Let relationships breathe. Let people participate voluntarily. Because anything you have to constantly force will eventually become exhausting. And the Stoic would rather lose an attachment than lose inner peace. Don't turn temporary silence into a permanent story. One of the biggest mistakes the mind makes is turning incomplete information into a complete story. Someone doesn't respond. Your mind creates a reason. They don't care. They're angry. They found someone else. They're ignoring me. I did something wrong. But you don't actually know. You have information. And then you have interpretation. These are not the same thing. The fact is, they haven't responded yet. Everything beyond that may be your imagination. This distinction is incredibly important. Stoic thinking asks you to separate what happened from what you think happened. What happened? The message wasn't answered. What do you know? Very little. So why torture yourself with a story you invented? This doesn't mean ignoring patterns. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, observe the pattern. But don't create a conclusion from one moment of uncertainty. Give reality time to reveal itself. You don't need to fill every silence with fear. Sometimes silence is simply silence. Sometimes people are busy. Sometimes they're thinking. Sometimes they don't know what to say. And sometimes they genuinely don't want to respond. You can handle all of those possibilities. Your job isn't to predict which one is true. Your job is to remain calm until reality provides more information. That is emotional discipline. Stop checking for signs. When you desperately want an outcome, everything starts looking like a sign. A message, a social media post, a coincidence, a delayed response, a particular number, a small change in someone's behavior. You begin searching for evidence that your desired outcome is coming. Why? Because uncertainty is uncomfortable. The mind wants reassurance, but constantly searching for signs keeps you emotionally attached. You become a detective in your own life. You analyze everything. You search for hidden meanings. You interpret ordinary events as messages. And the more you search, the more confused you become. Detachment says, stop searching for signs. Start observing reality. If someone wants to be in your life, their consistent behavior will eventually make that clear. If an opportunity is real, it will require real action. If something is changing, you will see evidence. You don't need to decode every small event. Let reality speak in patterns. And when you learn to trust observable reality instead of your anxious imagination, your mind becomes quieter. You don't need to win every person. There will be people who don't like you. There will be people who misunderstand you. There will be people who don't appreciate you. And there will be people who simply don't connect with you. Let them. One of the greatest mistakes you can make is trying to turn every person into an admirer. Why? Because the moment someone dislikes you, you begin working to change their opinion. You explain. You defend. You prove. You argue. You seek approval. But ask yourself, why does their opinion have so much authority over your peace? You don't need universal approval. Even the most respected people in history were criticized. So stop trying to become acceptable to everyone. Become consistent with your principles. If you know you acted honestly, let that be enough. If you know you treated someone fairly, let that be enough. If you know you made the best decision you could with the information you had, let that be enough. You don't need everyone to agree with your life. You need to be able to live with your own choices. Detach from the need to be understood. Sometimes the hardest thing to accept is being misunderstood. You know your intention, but someone interprets it differently. You want to explain yourself. You want them to see what you meant. You want them to understand your heart. But sometimes they won't. And this is where detachment becomes difficult. You must accept that you don't control another person's interpretation. You can explain once. You can clarify. You can apologize if you genuinely made a mistake. But after that, release. You cannot climb inside another person's mind and rearrange their beliefs. Trying to control how someone interprets you is another form of chasing. You are chasing an image of yourself inside their head. Let it go. Your responsibility is your conduct. Their interpretation belongs to them. This is freedom. When you stop explaining, your energy returns. Have you noticed how exhausting over-explaining can be? You make a decision. Someone questions it. You explain. They question again. You explain more. Then you give examples. Then you defend your intentions. Then you try to prove you're not a bad person. Eventually, you are exhausted. But did anything change? Maybe not. Sometimes your desire to explain comes from fear. You fear being misunderstood. You fear being rejected. You fear being judged. So you keep talking. Detachment teaches you to recognize when explanation has reached its limit. Say what needs to be said, then stop. Silence doesn't always mean weakness. Sometimes silence means, I have explained enough. What you do with that information is yours. Your peace doesn't require everyone to understand. Stop chasing the perfect outcome. Perfection is another trap. You imagine how something should happen. The perfect relationship, the perfect career, the perfect conversation, the perfect success story. And when reality doesn't follow the script, you become disappointed. But perhaps the problem isn't reality. Perhaps the problem is the script. You created a picture, then demanded that life reproduce it exactly. Instead, learn to hold goals with flexibility. Say, I know what I want, but also, I am open to discovering something better. This doesn't mean having no standards. It means allowing reality to surprise you. Maybe the relationship you wanted wasn't right for you. Maybe the opportunity you lost protected you from something. Maybe the delay allowed you to prepare. Maybe the path you didn't choose would have created a problem you couldn't see. You don't know. And because you don't know, leave room for life to unfold. The power of emotional distance. Emotional distance does not mean emotional emptiness. It means creating enough space to see clearly. When you're too close to a problem, everything feels enormous. A small rejection feels like the end of your world. A small criticism feels like an attack. A delayed result feels like failure. Step back. Look at the situation as if you were advising a friend. Would you tell your friend, your entire worth depends on this one person's decision? Probably not. Would you tell them, keep chasing someone who gives you nothing back? Probably not. So give yourself the same wisdom. Ask, what would I advise someone I love if they were in my position? That question creates distance, and distance creates perspective. Don't let one person become your entire world. When your emotional world becomes centered around one person, attachment becomes extremely powerful. Their mood affects your mood. Their attention affects your confidence. Their choices affect your plans. Their presence determines your happiness. This is dangerous, not because the person is necessarily bad, but because no human being should carry the entire weight of your emotional life. You need your own identity, your own goals, your own interests, your own friendships, your own routines, your own relationship with yourself. Love someone, but remain yourself. Care about someone, but continue living. Build a life so full of meaning that love becomes an addition, not a rescue mission. Then if someone stays, you appreciate them. If someone leaves, you grieve, but you continue. That is strength. Stop using attention as proof of worth. Attention feels good, but attention is not the same as value. Someone can give you enormous attention and still not respect you. Someone can give you very little attention and still respect you deeply. Don't confuse attention with love. Don't confuse popularity with character. Don't confuse followers with influence. Don't confuse compliments with genuine respect. The world rewards attention constantly, but the Stoic asks a deeper question. What kind of person am I becoming? That question matters more, because attention comes and goes. Character stays. People may stop watching. Circumstances may change. Popularity may disappear. But the person you have built inside yourself remains. Invest there. The discipline of not reacting. Imagine someone deliberately tries to provoke you. They know exactly what to say. They want a reaction, and you give them one. Now they control the interaction. But imagine instead that you pause. You breathe. You observe. And you choose not to react emotionally. Suddenly, the situation changes. You have reclaimed control. Not reacting doesn't mean allowing abuse. It means choosing your response instead of giving someone else access to your nervous system. You can establish a boundary. You can walk away. You can say no. You can speak firmly. But you don't have to surrender your emotional stability. This is what Stoic strength looks like. Controlled, clear, deliberate. Your energy should follow your values. Every day, you have limited mental energy. Where will you spend it? On someone who ignored you? On someone else's opinion? On a past argument? On an imaginary future? Or on the things that actually matter? Your energy should follow your values. If family matters, invest there. If your work matters, invest there. If personal growth matters, invest there. If peace matters, protect it. This is how you stop chasing. You stop running toward every emotional distraction. You become selective. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every person deserves access to you. Not every opportunity deserves pursuit. Wisdom is knowing what deserves your energy. Learn to live without immediate answers. One of the strongest people you can become is someone who can say, I don't know yet. You don't know what will happen. You don't know how someone feels. You don't know where an opportunity will lead. You don't know what next year will look like. And that's okay. You don't need every answer. Today, the need for immediate certainty creates anxiety. The ability to wait creates strength. You can live with unanswered questions. You can continue your day. You can continue your work. You can continue your life. Eventually, some answers arrive naturally, and some questions stop mattering. That is also an answer. When you accept loss, you become fearless. Much of chasing comes from fear of loss. You hold tighter because you're afraid. But holding tighter doesn't guarantee preservation. Sometimes it simply creates suffering. Instead, practice accepting the possibility of loss. Tell yourself, if this leaves my life, I will grieve, but I will survive. If this opportunity disappears, I will search for another. If this person leaves, I will continue growing. If this plan fails, I will build another. This doesn't make loss painless. It makes you resilient. You stop living as if every loss is the destruction of your identity. You understand, things can leave my life without taking me with them. That is powerful. Don't be afraid to start again. Detachment sometimes requires a new beginning. You may have spent years chasing something. Walking away can feel like admitting failure. But starting again is not always failure. Sometimes it is wisdom. Maybe you finally recognize that the path wasn't right. Maybe you learned something important. Maybe you changed. The person who started the journey is not necessarily the person standing here today. Give yourself permission to choose differently. You don't have to continue a path simply because you have already invested time in it. Past investment does not automatically justify future investment. Ask, knowing what I know now, would I choose this again? If the answer is no, detachment may mean changing direction. Stop chasing the past. There is another person many of us chase. Our former self. We chase the past. We replay moments. We imagine different decisions. We wish we had spoken differently. We wish we had stayed. We wish we had left earlier. We wish we had recognized the signs. But the past doesn't negotiate. It doesn't return because you regret it. You can learn from it. You can apologize where appropriate. You can repair what can be repaired. But after that, release. You were making decisions with the knowledge you had at the time. Today you know more. Use that knowledge. Don't spend the present punishing yourself for yesterday. Stop forcing people to give you closure. Sometimes we believe another person must give us closure. We want an explanation. We want an apology. We want them to admit what they did. We want them to tell us why. But what if they never do? Will you remain emotionally trapped forever? You cannot make another person give you the ending you need. Sometimes you have to create your own closure. You say, I may never understand everything, but I understand enough to move forward. That is powerful. Closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes closure is a decision. A decision to stop checking. A decision to stop waiting. A decision to stop asking. A decision to stop replaying. A decision to continue living. Become the person who doesn't need to chase. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you don't need to chase. You don't need to convince. You don't need to beg. You don't need to prove. You don't need to force. You simply show up as yourself. You do your work. You maintain your standards. You treat people well. You walk away from what repeatedly violates your peace. You remain open to what life brings. That person is powerful, not because they control everything, because they don't need to. They understand their own value. They know that what leaves can be replaced. They know that uncertainty can be survived. They know that rejection isn't destruction. They know that solitude isn't failure. They know that waiting isn't weakness. They know that effort is enough when the outcome is beyond control. This is the person detachment creates. Let your actions speak. If you truly want to become detached, stop announcing your detachment. Don't tell everyone, I don't care anymore. Live it. Don't say, I've changed. Show it. Don't announce your boundaries. Enforce them. Don't explain your confidence. Demonstrate it through calm behavior. Real transformation is quiet. You don't need applause for becoming stronger. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need witnesses to your discipline. Do the work privately. Let the results become visible later. This is another form of detachment. Detachment from recognition. You become willing to do the right thing even when nobody notices. The art of receiving. Detachment is not only about letting go. It is also about learning to receive. When you stop chasing, you create space. Space for new people, new opportunities, new ideas, new possibilities. But you must be willing to receive without immediately trying to control. If someone gives you genuine care, receive it. If an opportunity arrives, evaluate it. If life gives you something unexpected, don't immediately compare it to what you originally wanted. Sometimes the thing that arrives quietly is more valuable than the thing you were desperately chasing. Be open. Be discerning. Be grateful. But don't cling. Receive without possessing. Appreciate without demanding permanence. That is mature detachment. When you finally trust yourself. At the deepest level, detachment is about self-trust. You stop needing guarantees because you trust yourself to handle whatever happens. If someone leaves, I will handle it. If I fail, I will learn. If plans change, I will adapt. If people misunderstand me, I will remain true to my values. If the future is uncertain, I will face it when it arrives. This is real security, not the belief that nothing bad will happen, the belief that you can handle what happens. And once you trust yourself like that, chasing becomes unnecessary. You don't need to hold everything tightly. You don't need to force people to stay. You don't need to control every outcome. You can open your hand because you trust yourself enough to survive whatever remains after you let go. The ultimate Stoic freedom: stop chasing, start living. And now we arrive at the final lesson. You were never meant to spend your entire life chasing. Chasing attention, chasing approval, chasing people, chasing success, chasing certainty, chasing the perfect future, chasing an apology, chasing closure, chasing an outcome. At some point, you have to stop, not because you have given up, but because you have finally understood the difference between effort and control. Your effort is yours. The outcome is not always yours. Your words are yours. Another person's interpretation is not. Your love is yours. Another person's choice is not. Your ambition is yours. The timing is not always yours. Your character is yours. Your reputation is not completely yours. Your present is yours. The past is not. Your response is yours. The world is not. And once you understand this deeply, something changes. You become lighter. You stop carrying things that were never yours. You stop trying to manage everyone's emotions. You stop trying to predict every outcome. You stop begging reality to become different. You stop chasing people who have already chosen distance. You stop treating rejection as proof that you are unworthy. You stop treating delay as failure. You stop treating uncertainty as danger. You begin living fully, quietly, intentionally. You still have goals. You still have dreams. You still take action. You still love. You still care. But you no longer surrender your peace to the outcome. And that is the paradox. When you stop chasing desperately, you become more effective. When you stop forcing, you see more clearly. When you stop begging, you regain dignity. When you stop needing everyone, you become more authentic. When you stop fearing every loss, you become more courageous. And when you stop trying to control life, you finally have the energy to actually live it. So go after what matters. Work for it. Prepare for it. Give your best. But don't make your happiness conditional upon getting it. Love people, but don't possess them. Care, but don't cling. Hope, but don't depend. Dream, but don't demand. Act, but don't obsess. Wait, but don't become passive. And when you have done everything that belongs to you, release the rest. Let people choose. Let time work. Let circumstances unfold. Let the future arrive. You don't need to chase what is truly aligned with your life. You need to become ready to recognize it. And when something leaves your life, don't immediately ask, how do I get it back? Ask, what is this teaching me? When something doesn't happen, don't immediately ask, why am I being denied? Ask, what is still within my control? When someone doesn't choose you, don't ask, how can I make them choose me? Ask, why would I want to be chosen by force? And when life takes a direction you didn't expect, don't immediately say, this shouldn't be happening. Say, this is happening. Now what will I do with it? That is the Stoic mind, not a mind that controls everything. A mind that controls itself. Not a heart that feels nothing. A heart that feels deeply without becoming enslaved. Not a person who never loses. A person who refuses to lose themselves when something is lost. So stop chasing. Stop forcing. Stop begging. Stop overthinking. Stop trying to control what belongs to other people. Come back to yourself. Build your character. Protect your peace. Do your work. Keep your standards. Love honestly. And then, open your hand. Because sometimes the greatest change in your life begins when you finally stop trying to hold everything together. Sometimes what you chase is not what you need. Sometimes what leaves creates space. Sometimes what delays prepares you. Sometimes what rejects you redirects you. And sometimes, the moment you stop chasing, you discover that you were already standing on the path you were searching for. You simply couldn't see it, because you were running too fast. So slow down. Breathe. Look around. You are here. This moment is yours. This choice is yours. This response is yours. This life is yours. And you don't need to control everything to live it well. You only need to control what belongs to you. Your mind, your actions, your character, your response, everything else. Let it unfold. That is detachment. That is discipline. That is freedom. And that is the Stoic art of letting go. Tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself one question. What am I chasing that I need to release? Don't answer quickly. Think about it. Is it a person? Even if I lose it, I will not lose myself. That is the moment detachment becomes real. Not when you stop caring, but when you stop being controlled by what you care about. You can love. You can dream. You can work. You can hope. You can pursue. But you remain free. And that freedom is the goal. So tomorrow, don't wake up and chase. Wake up and build. Don't chase attention. Build presence. Don't chase approval. Build character. Don't chase people. Build meaningful relationships. Don't chase instant success. Build discipline. Don't chase certainty. Build resilience. Don't chase the future. Build today. And when something leaves, let it leave. When something arrives, receive it. When something changes, adapt. When something cannot be controlled, release. Because your peace is more valuable than any outcome. Your dignity is more valuable than anyone's approval. Your character is more valuable than your image. And your life is too valuable to spend it constantly running after things that may never be yours. Stop chasing. Start becoming. Stop forcing. Start allowing. Do your part. Then let go. And perhaps one day you will look back and realize the moment you stopped desperately trying to make everything happen was the moment your life finally began to move naturally. That is the Stoic Art of Detachment. And that is freedom. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my channel Anima Forte.